In Black Clover, the whole gist of Asta as the main character is that he doesn't have any mana, but his swords are anti-magic swords that cancel out any magic. But wait, this has actually caused fans to realize what potentially could be the biggest plot hole in all of Black Clover. When Asta is fighting against Veto and is aided by Finral and Vanessa, Asta's swords go through the spatial magic portal, without it absolutely demolishing and destroying that portal, as the portal is magic. Now, many fans have claimed this to be a plot hole, others try and find the reasoning behind this. Now, I can see either one of these being the outcome. Either this is a plot hole, or there's actually reasoning behind this. We're gonna go over all the evidence, but before that, guys, please do leave a like and subscribe if you enjoy, as well as to turn on notifications to be notified every time I upload a Black Clover video. So guys, while this issue was given a massive spotlight during the massive fight with Veto, which was very, very important for the series, this actually isn't the first time that this occurs. Go all the way to the beginning of Chapter 5 in the manga. When Noel's magic is out of control, and both of them are falling, Asta with his Demon Slayer sword out, falls through Finral's spatial magic portal. So this is something that has been occurring since Chapter 5, the beginning of Black Clover. Now when it comes to this discussion, we're going to talk about the three main spatial mages that Asta's interacted with: Finral, Plotholes, and Langris. First, let's talk about Finral. We know that Finral's magic isn't offensive spatial magic, it's just for teleportation and defense. It is entirely possible that Finral's use of spatial magic is only for teleportation, that it acts differently, physically, than the other spatial mages' spatial magic. For example, it is possible that only the outside ring of the portal is magic, while the inside isn't made of magic, but is a physical portal. That would somehow make it possible for Asta to traverse through the portals this way. I mean, he even goes sword first at times, so this seems to be the only possible explanation until we get into more. But more on that later. It's now time to talk about Plotholes' spatial magic. But actually, real quick before we get into Plotholes, I'm going to bring up an interesting point. When Asta stands up for Noel and the Sand Mages attack him, sand surrounds Asta's Demon Dweller sword, yet because Asta couldn't move his arm to use the sword, it didn't negate or destroy his magic. He needed to pull out his Demon Slayer sword to get himself out of the situation. So maybe in a way, Asta chooses when these swords work. I mean, they are his swords now, from his grimoire. Also, Julius Novachrono was able to hold Asta inside of a time orb that logically would be made of magic. Asta had his Demon Slayer sword out. This should not have been able to be possible, or it should have been cancelled out, or at least his sword should have fell through the orb, leaving Asta inside. Although the orb could be made that it is surrounding the sword in Asta's hand, giving it enough room to just float inside without actually being touched by the time magic. Anyways, back to Plotholes. Plotholes is an interesting case, as his spatial magic is quite different looking. His spatial magic has a very fluid and liquidy look to it. It looks alive, as if mana is itself present inside of it. This seems to be the case logically, as Asta's swords, when plunged in the middle, completely ruin the spatial portal, which actually points more towards the theory with Finral's spatial portals. Plotholes' portals even have an aura coming from it, even reaching higher than buildings in this panel. This further shows that Plotholes' portal is completely made of mana or magic. We also see Plotholes using a spatial magic to shoot some sort of magic out of it. On an important note, Asta drops both of his swords mid-battle and jumps through Plotholes' portal, and he comes through and punches Plotholes, knocking him near unconscious. It is important to note that Asta dropped his swords, likely because he thought they wouldn't be able to make it through Plotholes' portal. Now some say it was a distraction to make Plotholes think Asta was sort of giving up, which he actually did think that. Before this, Asta had fought Plotholes before, and noted that his anti-magic swords would cancel out the portals, so he was likely remembering back to the last time he faced Plotholes. So Asta seemed to be making the conscious decision to drop his anti-magic sword to travel in Plotholes' portal. Now, onto the final spatial mage, we will talk about Langris, Finral's half-brother. Now from the beginning of seeing Langris, we see that he is special with his spatial magic. It is rare, offensive spatial magic. It is a different color than both Plotholes and Finral's, and is by far the most powerful. Langris can pretty much just erase anything. Now it would make sense for Langris' spatial magic to be filled with mana as well, as how he shaves anything like he hits it with like sliced bread with a katana. Now Asta's swords will cancel out Langris' spatial magic, but we don't know if Asta can travel through them. Well, we can just assume that he can't because it would be straight up killing Asta if he didn't have his sword out. Meanwhile, if he did have his sword out pointing into it, it likely wouldn't block it all. We only see Asta slice it like a pizza in the manga, not stab it. So we don't know 100% how that would work, which brings a possible of inconsistencies or plot holes with anti-magic regarding the Sand Mage, Julius's time magic, and Finral's spatial portals. But there is a way to explain these. For example, the Sand Guard could have just been holding Asta's arm back, which means he couldn't move his sword, but technically the sand still wasn't touching it. But this could fix the problem of Asta's anti-magic sword not doing it, as well as Julius's time magic, which I already explained before. We also have the three main types of spatial magic that we've seen, all different from what Asta's interacted with. There's Finral, Asta's ally, and who is working to saving him. Voltos is as Asta's enemy. His spatial magic would be negated by Asta, and Langris, Asta's opponent, his can be countered and negated as well by Asta's swords. Based on the fact that Asta negates the inside of Voltos' portal and the outside of Langris's, but not the inside of Finral's portals, points to only really three things. Either one, somehow, through nature's mana itself, Asta's anti-magic and Finral's spatial magic work in unison and allow Asta to go through without any damage. Personally, I think that's the least likely option. Next, as mentioned before, somehow Finral's portal is not completely mana, but the outer ring is the only part that is mana, and the inside is just a physical portal, not a magic portal. But I don't know if I believe that, because it seems like all magic is magic in Black Clover. The third option is that it is a plot hole by Tabata that is overlooked by him. While it should seem obvious that your main character with the strongest weapon in the verse should destroy Finral's portals, but the fact that he has done this more than once makes me seem like there's an explanation here, and that it isn't a plot hole. And in fact, we may have had this explained by the Witch Queen herself. Now, in chapter 97 of the manga, Asta just went Black Asta, and this is what the Witch Queen says about him. Anti-magic energy flows constantly through the Demon Slayer sword. As a result, no one should be able to wield it, but you are magicless, and that power flows through you. You've been unconsciously emitting and shutting off that power. Now, what's important is when it says you've been unconsciously emitting and shutting off that power, the power of anti-magic. It shows a flashback to Asta, Finral, Vanessa versus Veto. One of the pictures explicitly shown is Asta going through the spatial portals with his sword out. Now, if you take this into context as a context clue, this is the Witch Queen explaining about Asta's anti-magic. And then she says, you've been unconsciously emitting and shutting off that power. And as that statement is said, it shows Asta going through Finral's spatial portal. So, what this likely means is, Asta can unconsciously turn on or turn off the power of the anti-magic in the sword. This Demon Slayer sword, probably the other swords as well. And I think that's the best explanation. That would make it perfect for why Asta can go through Finral's portals, because Asta can turn that sword into a regular sword that doesn't actually use the anti-magic. He can turn it on and off. And it would make sense if he's unconsciously doing it, because obviously he's going through the spatial portal, he's going super fast. It would make sense if it was unconsciously that he did it. Now, of course, you can still say it's a plot hole, but it just wouldn't make sense. So it starts off, Asta can fall through Finral's spatial portal. A few arcs later, Asta's sword counters spatial portals from Voltos, and he actually makes that a narrative point. His swords destroy those portals, and yet in the next arc, just 40 chapters later, Asta's sword directly goes through spatial magic again. So it's possible that Finral's magic could be part physical portal and part mana, but there's no evidence for that, and also, that would be an outlier, because we haven't seen magic like that in Black Clover. So, what it has to be is that Asta was unconsciously turning on and turning off his anti-magic when he was going through Finral's portals. Now, that makes you question, well, if he's doing that, then why did he go do that to Voltos? Why did he drop his swords if he can turn his anti-magic off? Well, it did say he was doing that unconsciously, so he doesn't know about this. He thinks his swords are going to just destroy the portal, but he drops his swords to go through the portal because he wants to find a way to get close to Voltos. But the thing, guys, is that even if this is a plot hole, which I don't think, I think that perfectly explains it, this is still one of my favorite manga. I mean, my favorite manga of all time, Dragon Ball, has constant retcons and plot holes as well. yet I still love the series. So while if this is a plot hole, I don't like it, that doesn't change my opinion on the series in a negative light. But yeah, guys, I think it's just that Asta can turn his anti-magic on or off, just like the Witch Queen said. But please do leave a like, guys, if you enjoyed. Comment your thoughts down below, and also subscribe and turn on notifications to be notified every time I upload a Black Clover video. Hope you guys have an amazing day. Plus...